Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is a short, maybe 30-minute presentation on 10 principles I've used to guide me throughout my career. The first one was something I read in a small business magazine once upon a time when I was first starting my company, Parallel Space. And the guidance was very simple: accomplish something every day, no matter how small. And this may seem like not very much of a big deal, but there's over 300 days in a year, and if you accomplish 300 things in a year, you will have accomplished an enormous amount. Sometimes there's some high priority, high importance thing that you should be working on, but it's just not appealing to you at that time. But find something else. Accomplish something every day, no matter how small. The second one was a lesson I learned from my dad: the need to have and the nice to have. When in product management, product planning, deciding what features to include, in an early version of a product, you're full of all kinds of ideas. An easy two-level prioritization is to consider the need to have versus the nice to have. This is a pretty simple scheme for deciding, placing things into two lists, and helping you focus on those things that are the most important. Be the best at what you choose to excel at. Towards the end of the deck, I'll talk a little bit about reputation and how it's important to view everything you do in your career as really building your reputation, whatever you choose to do, or the multiple things that you choose to do. But at any given point, choose to be the best at what you choose to excel at. Early in my Microsoft career, I had a chance, while I was in Microsoft Consulting Services, to internally subcontract into the SharePoint product group in Redmond. And that gave me an opportunity to become one of the best in terms of in-depth developer knowledge related to the SharePoint platform. So part of it's opportunistic, but once you do choose something, once you're given that opportunity, be the best at what you choose to excel at. Related to that is, how do you become the best? How do you excel at something? Find people that are better than yourself. Find people that are more knowledgeable than you are. Because there's always going to be a problem, a new question from a customer, something that's just outside or way outside your knowledge, the expanse of your knowledge. So it's always good to cultivate a community of people that are better than you are, that are more knowledgeable than you are. And this includes finding people that are in areas that are not only complementary to you, to what you know, but also people that are in areas that you don't have a particular interest in, or that you're not particularly knowledgeable in. Social equity. To paraphrase social equity, it's kind of what goes around comes around. It's the idea of sharing your knowledge, helping others, being compassionate, without expecting anything in return. And in effect, what you're doing is you're building up social equity. You're building up goodwill. And this kind of goodwill has a habit of coming back. back to you in a time when you're not necessarily looking for it or not necessarily expecting it, but you may be in deep need of some help. So never hesitate to help somebody else out. Never hesitate to capture and share a piece of knowledge. And those are the ideas behind the concept of social equity. Vision and scope, or vision versus scope. There's many software development frameworks, and one of them that I still rely on is called the Microsoft Solution Framework, MSF 3.0. And one of the early documents that it asks you to prepare for a project is called the Vision and Scope document. And what you're really trying to do there is a couple things. One is you're trying to articulate the long-term vision for the project, what you're ultimately trying to build, or the direction you're ultimately trying to go in. But the important part of this document is also understanding scope. Scope is, what are we going to do right now? What is it we're going to do in this current version, in this current version? And maybe what are we going to do in the next version? The idea here is not to blur your long-term vision with what you're trying to do now. What you're trying to do now has to be very, very concrete. A lot of these principles link to one another, and so you can readily imagine that this links to the need to have and the nice to have. Well, if you take the need to have and nice to have principle and apply it at each step or each version of your project or the product you're building, and that they are aligned towards a longer term vision, if you understand those concepts, then you understand vision and scope. Progressive improvement. I've got 3 versions listed here. It rhymes well, in the sense that in version 1 of something, you want to just simply make it work. And the parenthetical remark is, make it work by any means possible. And so you're going to take some shortcuts. You're going to, if it's a programming project, a software project, you're just going to code in, dummy routines and what we call scaffolding, just to get the project working. You might involve partners, or you might involve an open source project to get some code that you need right away. Just make it work. Make it work by any means possible. The whole goal of this 3 versions or 3 steps is for it to be a learning exercise. You can't get to the 3rd step, make it work right, straight out of the gate. You need to build something. You need to put it out there. Customers need to use it. Customers need to give you feedback. And then you can make it work better, and then you can make it work right. And it really does take 3 steps. Because in version 1, in Make It Work, you're just trying your best knowledge, your best intuition, your best current understanding. And that will create a framework for you to better envision what it is that you're creating. So that the next step, you can make it work better, because you're going to have some bigger ideas that you won't be able to execute completely. So you make it work better, and you completely fulfill those ideas by version 3, where you make it work right. So again, related to the previous principle, there's continuous transformation. And you can think of this as, how do you iterate within each of those versions? And so at a high level, there's 2 broad categories: listening and learning, planning and action. This originally developed for an infrastructure project for like an IT deployment and infrastructure project. And so the terms will make a little more sense in that context. But if we start on the left side there, listen. Listening is the beginning of the feedback process. You need to listen, you need to digest and learn from what you've heard. Use that to redesign or change your project or your business process or your configuration. Review it. Review and approve those changes. Be a little bit methodical. And then once you've got those ideas, the concrete ideas that you want to implement, use that to transform either the previous version of the project, previous version of the software, previous version of the infrastructure that's already deployed. Allow it to run, allow people to use it, put it out there. Measure the results to the level that you can instrument it to provide you with automatic measurements, or this could be more ad hoc qualitative feedback. Think of those as measurements. Think of those as listening to the pulse of what it is that you've created. Listen to that and start the process all over again with the next version of your project. Double check your work. This one sounds pretty simple. It's meaningful to me because at one point I worked for the IBM Software Lab in Toronto, and it was at the time when the lab was going through their ISO 9000 quality certification. And ISO 9000 is a standard that says if you're going to have a quality system, you need to do this, this, and this. And it's not just for software, but broadly across manufacturing or almost any endeavor. And a key part of a quality system is, quality assurance, quality control, being able to detect and remediate defects. And if I was just to take all that and simplify it, it's about double checking your work. And why this was meaningful to me, because once I had done something, once I had completed something, or once I was partway through something, double checking your work seemed like doing things twice, doing things a second time, or taking twice as much time to do something that really only needed to be done once. But it's surprising how expensive defects are to find and remediate, after that project or after that business process has been deployed. So double check as you go, double check as you're building. And to the extent that you can automate those quality control processes, so much the better. Divide and conquer. The way that I paraphrase this is solve small problems first. I'm working on a project now. It happens to be a Xamarin-based application to run on Android smartphones. And we're moving the project from one framework, from one project template to another one. And we could have just taken all of our previous UI pages and just plopped them into the new template. But then we'd have to, compile our way through making all of them work. So an example of solving small problems first is just to take the main page. Take that one page from the old template, from the old framework, put it into the new project. Learn from making that one page go. Use that as a recipe then for bringing the other pages over. So another way of looking at this is work incrementally. Once you've solved the small problems first, take the next batch of problems and the next batch of problems. Another way of thinking of this is kind of a circle of the wagons approach. Sometimes there is a large problem there, but you're just not ready to jump into that. Maybe you're a little bit of a procrastinator, maybe you're a little bit deadline driven. Find other things to do. Accomplish some small thing every day, linking to one of the early principles. Divide and conquer. This presentation was originally presented to the first and second year computer science program, students in the first and second year computer science program at Medicine Hat College. And most of them, virtually all of them, have a technical orientation. They're headed into software development type of positions. Well, at some point, you're going to have an opportunity perhaps to become a manager, to become a leader of people. And you can stay on the technical ladder, the technical track wherever you happen to be working, or you can go into the leadership side, management side. And so I found this to be one of the most memorable things I learned about leadership. The role of a leader is to inspire people to feel passionate about what they do. And if you've had a chance to work with good managers, I think this would resonate with you. The role of a leader is to inspire people to feel passionate about what they do. Starting to get near the end here. Early on, I alluded to the fact that what you do in your career, what you do to build your resume, the activities you participate in, the conferences you go to, the conferences you might present at, the projects you work on, the companies you work for, really think about that as a reputation building activity. And use that to focus and help you decide the things that you want to be doing versus the things that might dilute your reputation. This also links to the principle about being the best at what you choose to excel at. That can evolve over time, but think of what is your image, what is your reputation that you're trying to build. Reputation leads to trust, trust leads to success. People trust in people that have good reputations. People trust in people that are reliable. People trust in people that are very knowledgeable and capable. So if you have any questions, you can post them in the comments here on YouTube. Or you can send me a tweet at MWHerman2000, at MWHERMAN2000 on Twitter and elsewhere. Thank you for your time.